Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.
So 3 farm bills, you read features, advantage, disadvantage, like that. We are bringing farm bills and policy discourse. If I frame a question like, see, since there is a topic, policy issues in paper second, and that topic 2 questions they have asked so far. So because of that, let's say that I think a third question can be asked, not necessarily related to farm bills. But today, whatever the framework we will give, it will work for any such law. Any such law that we have in recent times and that has faced challenges. Even let's say that we were talking about 85th 4th Amendment Act, even that, although it is not amended recent time, so this one you can take, or you can say CAA law, that you can take. So, or even take GST. So this one. So any such law, etc., which face challenge in terms of its implementation. So in that case, let's say that it can be considered, or policy discourse, or let's say that diminishing role of parliament, the next topic I guess. Diminishing role of parliament. So there are several other questions, means there can be several other questions. It can be asked in paper 3 also, it can be asked in paper 2 also. In paper 2 it can be asked from policy discourse perspective. This. See, farm bills. Basically, they are trying to address what they are trying to address, farmers. Government wants to remove old structure, APMC Act. So that farmers, basically we can eliminate middleman. We can eliminate middleman, eliminate exploitation of farmers. Right. In simple way you understand, already you may have your own understanding that farmers and consumers both are losers. So both do not gain as of now from the present system of the supply chain that we have in agri sector. Farmers, they get whatever their of 28%, 30% of that under this market. This is how it has been seen. 38% increase in their return in Karnataka when unified market has been created. So it shows that they are getting 38% less. That is how one such study talks. So whatever, let's say that input and output, so middlemen, their cartelization, so they also exploit. Already you know that how middlemen exploit farmers, and then they, let's say that they sell, the sellers, etc. The main beneficiaries are middlemen. And consumers also have, they are also getting the product, means agri product or let's say items in more price, they are getting less price. The benefits goes to middlemen. And let's say because of such kind of practice, let's say old such laws, etc., investment is also not coming in farm sector. The farm sector investment is also not coming. That is called capital is not coming. It is not bringing competition, and then hence let's say commercialization of agriculture is also getting affected. And therefore, the farm bills are trying to address such constraints, such problems. And that is how farm bills from economic perspective. Now, farm bills from policy making perspective. So let's take this, or I will go to next page. So farm bills from policy perspective. You should know that first it is radical policy or reform. This. Then there is protest, means delay in implementation. Delay in implementation. Good intention. Right. What? To bring 3 C's. Simply it is unbundled, it is new economic policy for agriculture. It is unbundling of agriculture. So that way you can understand. There I don't want to spend much time. So, good intention, we want to do this, that. Now, ask this question. Right. Can a policy be implemented effectively if at policy making stage all stakeholders have not been taken into consideration? this. Then the question is stakeholder. So you should know that the government, states, market, farmers, they are the most important stakeholders. Pressure groups. Since already this question has been asked, farmers groups as pressure group. There are others also we can take by this market, others can be political parties included. Now the question is called, what is a good policy? Right. What? Policy discourse. Deliberative democracy. Pre-legislative scrutiny, legislative impact assessment, impact assessment, evidence-based policy. This. So let's take, we'll talk later on. Right. Parliament, executive, introduces bills, is made law. Committees, this consultation, stakeholders, pressure groups. Already you know, again, farm bills. You know that first it was issued ordinance and then Parliament passed it. Passed them. Now, what government consulted? Basically, let's say that Chief Minister's Conference. Chief Ministers' Conferences. Then Niti Aayog report. Related. Contract farming, others, this is what we'll find. Chief Ministers' Conferences, there had been, the committee was also there of Chief Ministers. So ordinance. First thing is that why it was brought by ordinance. Is it so urgent? So why the farm bills were, let's say, brought through ordinance? That is the first point. And then let's say that in lockdown time, simply you know that why in lockdown time was it so urgent? Right. So when parliament in lockdown time is not functioning, and in that let's say time, this is how the law is being introduced. So this, and then parliament passed during lockdown time. Yes, the parties have not opposed, means they have not opposed at this stage. This you should know. Already 16 states, it is said, already 16 states have amended their APMC Act. This, so in support of government in terms of consultation, deliberation, etc. So we can tell that it is not that the farm bills have been passed. So they are very fresh bills. Already developments have happened. In past also government has brought amendment, several times amendment in those bills related laws, and 16 states have brought already the changes. Bihar has also abolished it and it has adopted the similar type of practice. Karnataka has also done it. Right. So this is how we can say that the central government says in its justification. But let's say that you should know that there has not been, the most important is pressure group stakeholder in fine is farmers or farmers. Farmers are the most important stakeholders. Can we say? Farmers are the most important stakeholders. Now the question is not that who, which stakeholders you have consulted, which stakeholders you have not consulted. The question is that whether consultation is robust, whether this consultation is robust. I will say robust, streamlined. What is streamlined? We'll go to next page. You should know that in 90s onwards, we are talking blah blah things. You know, you also study all these things. We talk governance. We talk good governance. And what is good governance? 3 stakeholders: state, market, and civil society. Participation, sharing of powers, participation. We talk RTI, citizen charter, social audit. Just I am trying to remind this. So, what do you talk? Participation. इसी में ऐड कर लो सोशल मीडिया. और ये हम नहीं कह रहे हैं, गवर्नमेंट ही बोल रही है. गवर्नमेंट ही सेज देयर इज प्री लेजिस्लेटिव स्क्रूटनी. You may be also aware about this policy 2014. पॉलिसी भी है, लॉ बनाने से पहले कंसल्ट करना. प्री लेजिस्लेटिव स्क्रूटनी एटलीस्ट 1 month in advance. Right? Then we say there is a practice, legislative impact assessment. Legislative impact assessment. It is after legislation, post. And then we say what more? So Niti Aayog says development is Jan Andolan. Or Niti Aayog also say plus evidence-based policy making. मीन्स 90s में हमने प्रॉमिस शुरू करना किया पार्टिसिपेशन का, और प्रॉमिस करते करते मान लो हम यहाँ तक पहुँच गए. लेट मी गिव एग्जाम्पल. We started 1990s criticizing past 1950s, and we started talking participation, and we reached to 2021. और यहाँ जब हम आ गए तो we are practicing again this. Are you able to understand? Without explaining them, I guess कि you are all aware about these terms. Evidence-based policy making. Are you aware? Legislative impact assessment, legislative scrutiny. You know what they do all. All means one thing. Robust system of consultation. Before policy making. And this is called policy discourse. And when this policy discourse will happen, we will not face such problems, although it is not a guarantee. Participation is not a guarantee that there will not be protest. Getting my point? See, all these things we have told, but why we are not following it? Why we are always so showing so urgency in making law? Like, let's go back. So evidence-based policy making means already, let's say, look into the similar policies made elsewhere, study it, analyze it, and learn from that, so that you are not making the similar mistakes, or you are not going to repeat the mistakes. Rather, you learn from their weaknesses. Like if Bihar has implemented this kind of practice, so learn from Bihar that whether what it has gained, what it has not gained, what are the weaknesses, and whether in the law formulating, so we are trying to overcome those weaknesses, whether this law is overcoming them. This is what evidence-based policy making. Participation, Jan Andolan. Legislative impact assessments is this: study of each and every law which has been enacted by the legislature. What has been the impact of that law after its formulation? Whether the law is able to achieve the objectives it was meant for. The law was meant for. So we don't have even streamline this. Pre-legislative scrutiny is that before you introduce a bill, at least 1 month the bill should be published for public debate and discussion, so that people can have remarks on that, and you review it and then introduce that bill. So it is also not being followed. Now people, so I will say that yes, now what we are doing, the discourse which should be led by parliament, that all these discourse should be led by parliament. So these all things should, let's say that somehow linked to parliament. The parliament is the main institution, should lead the discourse. But where the discourse, main discourse is happening, this. So main discourse is happening here. The parliament is nowhere in picture. The next topic is related with India has parliamentary democracy, but parliament is not functioning. Right, this you have to understand. So why we are facing such policy challenges? So why we are so having urgency that bring laws, bring policy. What will be the outcome of that policy? if we are not having proper debate and discussion, proper discourse. Proper discourse means, policy discourse means, before policy making there should be proper debate, discussion, consultation with all different stakeholders, agreeing and disagreeing, and on the basis of taking inputs from them, the policy should try to achieve maximum consensus and then formulate the policy. This is called policy discourse. And then let's come back. So this parliament we were talking. So when parliament law is introduced through ordinance route, then in lockdown time parliament just simply passes it. So this is not, let's say, robust consultation. And then whatever the government is saying it, yes, it is good. We will not say that it is not good, but it is a radical policy. Can a radical policy be made? And should we have concern only till policy making level? Then it goes to next level. This can implementation. So can implementation. Can we have effective implementation if at policy level stage itself the stakeholders have not been consulted? So policy, even if it is made, it will not be effectively implemented. Why? Can you tell why?
Sir, already there is no any proper structure of the legal system. Sir. That is the major drawback in implementation of any laws. If you take any past bill has been claused, they are not able to take in the legal opinion, and that's why they are going to be against working on the same procedure in courts now, sir.
Great. So let me bring again back to
Sir, if we do not address the cause of your concern of the stakeholder, we will not achieve the objective.
Yes. Think about when you are taught governance and good governance. So what is taught? For effective governance, we need participation of all stakeholders. This is what governance topic is. This is what governance concept is. Why we have started talking governance and good governance? So there should be effective participation of different stakeholders. So if we at policy making level do not take into consideration the different stakeholders, so how at implementation level they will support, they will cooperate? Rather it will result into increased litigations and now the protests which are happening. Already 1 year, let's say it is nearing to 1 year of that protest. So what we have achieved enacting the law in urgency, like say in lockdown time. And why we are not learning from that? First we make policy, then we face protest. Then we review it. First we make policy, then we face litigation, then we review it. So don't you think that we are not learning from all these such practices or all such policy making challenges? Or why we are not understanding the policy making challenges? So a good policy may not necessarily make a good implementation. This you should understand. Because implementation also demands participation of different stakeholders. Right. And that's why there should be policy discourse. That's why there should be policy discourse. And we don't have to seek what policy discourse. Already so many things we have been talking. Already let's say that these things are being talked. It is not the first time you are hearing. Already, I guess the page numbering, already you know all these things we have been talking. Even the government will also talk. This is evidence-based policy is talked by Niti Aayog itself. It is talking. So why it is not practicing? And therefore this is how this topic we are trying to bring from policy discourse perspective, policy making perspective. And some of the basic things also have been given in about public policy. So those who do not, let's say, basically know, especially let's say that non-political science, public administration background people. So we have given a policy cycle. You can know, okay, policy has also a cycle, like how policy goes. It is called policy making. We are still at this stage. Then you go for policy implementation. Then this policy, let's say, called monitoring. Let's say policy review. This and this policy change, if you want to bring any input, feedback. So this is what, let's say, that you can have different stages, and it is not today we are talking. These things have been already talked during 1950. ये कोई नई बात नहीं. It's not a new thing. Already there are lots of research, lots of theoretical developments which are not part of GS to tell. But public policy is a separate field, you should know that. Public policy is an academic field where research happens, theories have been given, how to make good policy, what are the drivers of good policy, determinants of good policy. This and those things they have also dealt with stakeholders, different stakeholders. How you can deal with different stakeholders? And consultation is the only way to deal with different stakeholders. We are not talking that there will be absolute consensus. In democracy, it is not possible. Especially in parliamentary democracy, it is not possible. When we have our country, which is highly diverse, it is difficult to achieve complete consensus. But that does not mean that we should not build consensus at all. So we should not build we should not have this tendency that we should not build consensus at all. So this kind of, let's say, that thing, already lots of things have developed. I was telling, let's say, that again I will repeat it, that I don't know to what extent you understand all these things. See, if we started our journey from here 1950, so we have reached here, but we are behaving as if still we are behaving old times. If policies are not properly consulted, if bills are not referred to committees, and there is no proper debate and discussion, so even, let's say, that you become something else, even not like that. So then whatever you are talking, like all these things, evidence-based policy making, governance, good governance, RTI, social media, and pre-legislative scrutiny, legislative impact assessment, transparency, all these things are just bakwas. They are only for God of small things. I say means chillers, sorry to say that. Means ये सब उनके लिए है जो लोग वो coin जो like coin means I mean to say that कि it is for unimportant people. Right? RTI is for unimportant people. Participation is for unimportant people. Means you will have participation in unimportant things, but in important things will behave as if we are Raja Maharaja. No consultation.
But can we say that all departments are political assessment only?
So I will tell that you should know that it is well acceptable fact so far that a good policy will not only make good implementation. A good policy means there should be consultation with stakeholders and consensus building, because a policy is as good, as bad as it is implemented. If we adopt a very good policy but it is not effectively implemented, then you know what will happen. Right. So we should not become rhetorical at policy making level. But what happens is that we become rhetorical at policy making level. We become emotional at policy making level. and let's say that we do not want to tolerate any dissent view, any other things, but ultimately we suffer more than that in long run. That's why there should be policy discourse, open debate, discussion of advantage, disadvantage. In fact, most of the economists have supported farm bills. It has been supported by intellectuals also. But somehow that message has not gone to the farmers. So it is the duty of the government, it is this duty of the stakeholders to, let's say, let the message go to them. They also understand. We should take them into confidence. This, because we cannot say simply, let's say, deride them and refuse to respect their views. They have also their views. So that is how, let's say, there is a need for policy discourse. And that is what the role of public policy, the field of public policy. And policy challenges are that without following such things today, without following such things, let's say, this concept deliberative democracy is that policy discourse, when in any democracy there is effective policy discourse, it gives rise to deliberative democracy. Deliberative democracy is that day-to-day people participate in the process of decision making of the government. And that is how RTI, citizen charter, social media, people are participating, pressure groups also, so civil society, they participate. So this topic we were trying to discuss from a policy discourse perspective, and same thing, let's say that you can you can apply to any other such policy. Yes, the same thing you can apply to any other such policy which have been made, be it related to, just we were talking about this government enacting, let's say, even 97th Amendment Act. So this aspect, or even, let's say, that GST that we have, or any, let's say, that even CA law that it has brought in recent times, or its bills, let's say, that bills it is passing without debate and discussion. So we should follow that policy discourse. Otherwise, even if you, let's say, adopt this bill, means you make a law, but that law will not be implemented effectively. There will be excessive bureaucratization. And already you have learnt it. I drew somewhere this. Yes. No, it is not like this. Its page number simply becomes like something. Anyhow, already we have seen what happens when there is excessive centralization, right? Or let's say that bureaucratic dominance, right? So farm bills challenges can be addressed through policy discourse, and that is how even government is trying to do after formulation of farm bills, that it is holding consultation. And you can imagine how much resources we lose through farm protests for 1 year. How much resources we lose, and for what the law we are trying to make. So this, similarly, you will take that the flaws. If you take, already you may be knowing some flaws, but one flaw that we want to highlight. It has mentioned that disputes related to any such contract, pricing, other things at district level, it is the SDM should adjudicate. Then there will be appellate authority. That appellate authority is district magistrate. So the executive has been given judicial power. Now you can defend by saying they have in land related matters judicial powers, other matters have been given to judiciary. But let's say it is blurring of separation of power from executive and judiciary. And today or tomorrow it will be challenged in the court. Already Delhi, let's say, Lawyers Association, they have criticized Right. So someone will challenge this. It is also doctrine of colorable legislation. Right. What you do not bring any change in the constitution or anything means you do not take the power of judiciary directly. You take the power of judiciary indirectly. Right. In the name of speedy adjudication, in the name of farm sector reforms, we give power to bureaucracy to adjudicate. And bureaucracy, it's dispute redressal. Disputes redressal should be done by either judiciary or quasi-judicial body, not by executive. सो अभी तो फार्म प्रोटेस्ट चल रहा है, इसलिए हो सकता है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट कुछ बोलना नहीं चाहता होगा. Right. Means judiciary does not want to speak about this. Again, let's say that these things happen when from back door you get power. So it is bureaucratization or it is further increase in the role of bureaucracy. So today it may not appear. That is how that problem should also be addressed through discourse. Right, consultation of stakeholders. Should we have such kind of provisions? Right, because giving dispute redressal, now I will, you may not be aware, district magistrate is such a busy functionary, how he can work as appellate authority. Already he is such a busy functionary, you can know that he does not have time. And then you are bringing such a, let's say that radical reform, and then in radical reform dispute should be redressed by district magistrate. So then we believe the success of the farm bills also depend on how they function. So it is one such flaw in that farm bill also, which in future we expect that it will be again challenged.
Sir, can we say that whatever the government propagates, as you have mentioned the points, if we follow in letter and spirit all those points, we will be able to tackle the challenges, we will be in implementation way at policy level, policy making state itself?
Yes, see, try to understand. That is how called that if there is a system in place and if you work as per the rule books, so many problems will not arise. Right. Recently, Chief Justice of India has also raised this point, and that is how we have brought the next topic we have related, parliament related. So there we will emphasize. But Chief Justice of India has highlighted one thing, that if law is made weak, then it creates more problem. And see, we don't have to, government is already well educated, it is well aware about such practices. Right. And you also know that if you bring, let's say that you can pass no doubt a law related to Article 370 because there is a popular support. But in the name of popular support, everything you cannot do. Basically, this is how it is. So you should not take the popular support for granted. That no, people will not resist, or we have the majority. So those who are resisting, they should be simply ignored because you are in majority. That is not principle of democracy. Government should understand today or tomorrow it cannot govern. It is not executive democracy. It cannot govern and make policies in long run. So its success in long run depends on how it takes into consideration the different stakeholders, including the other two organs of the states. Are we respecting the other two organs of the states? We are not saying that there will not be disputes between them. We are not saying that there should be absolute consensus. This is not we are talking. We are talking that let's the organs of the state function as per what they have been mandated, and what, let's say that standards of democracy says that policies should be made with policy discourse, debate in today's context. We are not living in 50s and 60s or 70s. Today we are living in the era where we talk about participation. And there are many stakeholders who think that they are more aware about their rights. And you should know it is not first time it has happened. We have given some facts, you should know that. Indigo protest and Indigo Commission was set up by British. And then it was accepted that Indigo contract, the farmers are not necessarily to enter into agreement for indigo production or indigo cultivation. The British era time it was accepted. Then another, let's say several, let's say that protests happened that time and uprising happened during British time. And even during Rajiv Gandhi time, this, let's say that Tikat, means his father, I'm forgetting his name. So that protest and Rajiv Gandhi government, it was also a majority government. In fact, much more seat, let's say that, than present government. Highest ever majority in Lok Sabha. And that government also accepted demands and they were incorporated in law. Are we learning from this? This. So a state may agree, let's say that Uttar Pradesh as a state may agree because it is ruled by BJP, the same party, but farmers may not agree of that state. So when state agrees, that does not mean that stakeholders also agree. So, and let's say that farmers, they are the pressure groups, and farmers from Western Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, yes, there are strong pressure groups. The saying also that they are the only Punjab, Haryana and Western Uttar Pradesh, they have problem, other farmers do not have problem. That is also not a right way to address the problem. Rather, you have to take the stakeholders into consideration. But again, at the same time, you should know that it should be said that protest in democracy means raising voices, not hostaging democracy. If you talk from protest and farmers' perspective, so from that topic we have not here brought, but you should know that in democracy, people have right to protest, but they cannot hostage the government at. That means they cannot take the hostage of the government. If people do not agree with the government, then there is election. And people should punish in elections rather than not allowing the government to work. So protest, such prolonged protest, right, and let's say blockage of road, etc., that is not the right part of the protest. This you should also know. So it is not also that protesters, everything is supported or even their absolute right is protested. Freedom is not absolute. They should also know. If they think that the government is not going to amend, they have their rights. Rights that during elections they can favor or go against the government. This is how the electoral democracy. So that should be dealt when you get a question related to protest, right to protest and freedom of expression and democracy from that perspective. So this is how we will say on public policy or farm bills or any such policies, it should work as a framework for you that when any policy is made, the government should have, before policy is going to parliament, so it should, let's say that have proper consultation with all stakeholders. First, it should carry evidence-based study, pilot-based study, this is how learn from the practices elsewhere. Third, it can appoint or it can give consultation to a research body to carry out research and that policy related, and let's suggest some measures, and means it should first fully inform itself, then make policy. So that from the substance perspective, from legal perspective, the policy has less chance to be challenged. And then at origin itself, you avoid problems of poor implementation and litigation in the court. And when it goes to legislature, In legislature, it should be debated and discussed. Why? Because policy making is not the main role of the executive, it is policy execution. Policy making is the role of the legislature. Law making is the role of the legislature. So when executive starts also making policy, executing policy, it starts behaving like absolute state. So when a bill is introduced in parliament, it is not debated and discussed and not sent to committee, then you know what the government is doing. Government is grabbing legislative powers. Right. So it should honor a bill to be debated and discussed and sent to the committees. And then they will have their alternative views, suggestions, and then let's say that it should be further debated, discussed and passed. And once it is passed, implemented, there should be legislative impact assessment after 1 year of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years of implementation. Right. So that you can further improve. That is called policy evaluation, and learning from that feedback and improving the policy. So then we will be able to have less challenges in terms of protests, etc. And that is how we consider it discourse, policy discourse and its benefits. So this, we guess you will be able to answer that question, other whatever questions were framed. The next topic.
Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.